My first question is about ringing in the ears.
Say again.
So ringing in the ears.
Ringing in your ears.
Yeah,
Again,
a little bit high pitch.
beyond the idea of anything that we cannot discuss that has to do with actual medical physiology, sometimes that ringing, aside from physical causes, can be again the result of tapping into higher frequencies that are being translated as a tone auditorily for you. But you have to make the determination as to whether or not that's what's happening. Again, is there any resistance to the flow of higher frequencies through you?
I try to figure out what that is.
Rather than trying to figure out what it is, are you acting on your highest passion every moment that you can with no insistence on the outcome, yes or no?
No.
Thank you. So you may have given yourself a perfect reason why the ringing is happening, to get your attention that you're not flowing the energy that's coming to you. So what is your fear about moving forward on your passion? Why are you holding yourself back? Why are you trying to get your attention by ringing a bell in your head?
Because I'm always confused about what my passion is.
That's easy to understand. When we talk about the idea of acting on your passion, it doesn't have to be a specific thing that's like a career or a project. We're talking about every single moment of your life, you have a number of options available to you. We're going to assume for the moment that you're here today because this was an exciting choice for you to have these kinds of experiences and conversations. Yes?
Yes.
Yes. That wasn't difficult. You made a choice. So when this conversation is over, when this evening is over, you will then decide, I'm going to go home, I'm going to read a book, I'm going to have a meal, I'm going to talk to a friend, I'm going to see a movie, I'm going to do this, that, or the other thing. Just pick the one that has even just the tiniest bit more excitement to it than any other choice, and act to the best you can with no insistence on the outcome on that one first. Remember when we said that synchronicity is the organizing principle? It will bring you things in the order in which they contain more excitement than anything else as the thing to act on before anything else. No matter how simple it is, no matter how ordinary it may seem, every single thing will come with a little bit more excitement than something else. That's the one to act on first if you can. That's all it takes. Then you start the ball rolling, and your excitement may expand, and it may turn into a project, or it may turn into a career. But what we're saying is, to act on your passion, it doesn't have to. It just means that every moment you're always choosing something that's more exciting than any other choice, which means then you're living a life of fulfilled excitement.
Oh, so you're saying the acting on your highest passion doesn't mean a big goal?
No, not at all. Because if you're always acting on whatever excites you more than anything else, you're still living your excitement.
So you mean every single moment, you just a little bit at a time?
Yes, that's a good way to start. If you don't have the larger idea, then start small with what you can do.
But it's easy
Remember,
yes.
One of the tools in the kit is that it connects to all expressions of excitement. So when you start on one level, it will ultimately lead you to other levels of expression of excitement, if that's where you prefer to go.
I understand the concept, and I usually do that because I'm usually kind of, happy, naive. But I found like lately,
Yes?
I have been experienced something like a panic attack.
All right, so I go back to the original
Yes.
question. If you do, in fact, really act on your highest excitement and be the person you prefer to be, what are you afraid might happen? That's what the panic is about. What are you afraid might happen?
It's more like things happen beyond my, my imagination or my capability.
What are you afraid might happen?
Let's say my roof leak, when it rains or something, it might
What's
pour
so
down.
bad about that?
My house will be ruined.
Is that it? If I act on my passion, my roof might leak.
No.
Oh my gosh, it's the end of my life. I'm getting water on my head. What will I do? I guess I will lie down and die.
No, I don't mean that I don't act on my passion, highest passion, because I'm worried about roof leaking. I'm talking about like my passion may be interrupted or all of a
Did you
sudden-
remember what we said before about the idea that you cannot experience a negative thing if you're actually in the state of passion? The very fact that what just came out of your mouth, I'm afraid my passion will be interrupted, is exactly what I asked you to say. That's your fear-based belief. It's not a fact. It's what you believe might be true. And that's why you don't even start. Because you believe in such a thing as an interruption in your passion. There doesn't have to be any such thing in your experience, but you believe there might be, so you don't even begin.
So,
That's the belief.
so in real life, let's say if something happens.
Real life.
Real life.
Because
Like,
what we're talking about can't possibly
No.
be real life.
So, I mean, everyday life, let's say, if some
Yes.
dramatic thing happen, isn't
Yes.
we as human, the first reaction was, oh my God, and then you deal with this.
No.
No?
No. That's a learned response because of a meaning you're putting into the situation unconsciously. No one has to react that way. It's not automatic. It's not a fact. It's an opinion. It's a perspective. It's a belief. It feels like a fact because you're used to it. You're saying, well, everyone knows this. Everyone knows humans react. No, they don't. You've been taught to believe that they do. And therefore, for you, it's real. But it's not a fact. It's an experience you're generating because you assume it's a fact. You assume it's a natural thing. It's not. It's a learned experience.
So give example. Let's say you have a car accident, right?
So what? How exciting. What did you get out of it that you otherwise wouldn't have learned by doing that? What did you learn by having that experience?
But that's after the fact. Maybe a day later, I will think, oh, okay, I'm learning something from that.
You
But
can
in the
know
moment,
it in the moment.
In the moment.
When you learn how things work, you can know it in the moment. If you don't, that's fine. It may take some time, but it doesn't have to, is what we're saying. The only reason it does is because of how you think about reality, not because of the way reality is.
So what you're saying is when things happen, I should stay neutral.
I'm not saying you should do anything, but if you do choose to stay neutral, it'll be much easier to figure out why you may have generated that for yourself.
Because
can
everything
learn much
happens
faster.
for a reason? Is that
Yes,
why?
everything happens for a reason. There are no real accidents. Everything's an orchestration. So if that is something that you have generated for yourself, there's got to be a reason for it. Maybe you're trying to get your attention, like the ringing, and you're not paying attention. So if you don't pay attention to what it is you actually really need in life that's being given to you, you will do whatever it takes to get your attention. Even if it takes a car accident sometimes, to get your attention.
How do I know this thought is coming from my physical mind or my higher being?
What makes you think you have to know the difference?
Because I want to know I'm using my intuition or I'm using my brain, but sometimes I can't tell.
What makes the difference in your belief system between the two? Why can't the information coming from one or the other, still serve you?
Because they are contradictory.
Then you are creating the contradiction. Find the belief that creates the contradiction. That's what we're saying. You're making the difference. Your belief is making there appear to be a difference. Find that belief. What would you have to believe is true in order to experience a difference?
I don't understand. I'm so sorry.
That's all right. No apology necessary. What we're saying is, when you experience what you're calling a contradiction,
Yes.
what seems to be opposite ideas, you know that they both have to come from a center point in you. They have to originate from a center point. In that center point of balance, there is neutrality. Both apparently opposite ideas have to come from the same source. The only thing that makes them appear to be contradictory is a belief you have about them and the belief you have that creates what appears to be a difference between them. But they can still both serve you. As I said earlier, even if you manifest something you don't prefer, that's not a judgment. It's an observation. This is not my vibration. I am not compatible with this. So even if you neutrally realize that there's something that happens that you don't prefer, you can still use it in a positive way, even if only to recognize that it may have given you greater clarity between what you don't prefer and what you do. That's not a contradiction anymore. You have found a way to use what you don't prefer as a way of discovering more clearly what you do prefer, and therefore you have erased the contradiction because now you know why that happened, why the contradiction seemed to be there.
So are you saying that either way is fine? Every way,
I am saying if
either
you
way?
use it, no, I'm not saying either way is vibrationally compatible with you. What I'm saying is that if there appears to be a contradiction, you can use the contradiction to your benefit by understanding why you would create it.
Oh, gotcha.
Yes?
Yes.
Does that make sense to you now?
That makes sense.
Thank you.
Okay. Last question.
Yes.
If you have a situation as parent that your children is maybe have troubles and they run into many troubles, but you can't help them because they don't listen to you, like teenagers,
All right. Again, first of all, you're talking about a situation that is the result of a buildup of all sorts of belief systems for many years.
Okay.
The idea in general is to understand them by understanding how things work, so that you give them a safe space in which to experience the consequences of the choices that they make, so they can learn what those consequences are without really experiencing them too strongly. And you create interactivity in your imagination with them to allow them to understand they are as powerful already as they need to be to attract whatever they need in life without having to hurt themselves or anyone else in the process to do that. And you allow yourself to have the imagination as a parent and a teacher to design the lesson that you believe they need to learn in a way that adapts to their excitement instead of trying to force their excitement to adapt to the lesson. Do you understand? Then they will want to learn. Then they will want to understand how to make choices in a positive and constructive way. But for years and years, your planet and your teaching system has taught them things that don't allow them to understand their connection to source, their self-empowerment, their freedom to choose, the consequences of choices, or the idea that they can live their excitement and learn everything they need to learn through the auspices of their excitement instead of dampening their excitement to fit into a mold.
So if your children hang out with kids that use drugs or something, you just gonna let them?
It's the result of belief in disempowerment.
Okay.
Because remember, addiction of any kind or attraction to addiction of any kind in the negative sense is because you feel there is something missing within you that you are trying to either fill with something that never will fill it or dull the sensation that you're missing something so that you don't have to pay attention to it. Because that's a scary place to be. And that's what a lot of your teenagers feel. Something's missing. And they don't understand what it is because they've never been taught how to connect to their own self-empowered connection to source.
So how do we help them as parents?
I just told you.
You say allow them, empower them to figure out?
You as the parent and the teachers have to have an understanding of how this works as we've explained it, and you have to have the ability to create with your imagination dialogues and situations and circumstances for them that allow them to practice making choices and experiencing or understanding what those consequences are in a way that is safe for them before they actually do that out in what you call the real world. But you have to create those things for them as the parents and the teachers.
But if they don't listen to you?
Not now, no. But you have to be clever enough to figure a way around that, and one of the ways is what we suggested. You have to understand what excites them, and you have to speak to them in their own language of excitement so that you are clever enough to adapt the lesson to their excitement. They may not even know what you're doing that, but you have to be the one that's imaginative and clever enough to know how to do that. Yes?
Okay. How do we get that imagination? Do we
I imagine.
Can we talk to them in their sleep, or like?
That's
vision
what, well, now
thoughts?
see, you came up with that interesting imagination idea. Talk
Okay.
to them in their sleep. What's wrong with that? That came from your imagination.
Okay. Thank you, Bashar.
Thank you.